welcome back to Bandit and Cass. I'm Kaitlin, and today I'm going to be showing you my weekly bullet journal setup, as well as how I migrate all of my information into said weekly spread. This is the spread that I set up every single week. It's one of my favorites, and it's really simple and easy. I believe in keeping it simple and only using a couple of supplies. So the spread is really easy. You can do it yourself, I promise, and we can all get organized together. So let's get into it. This is a little bit meta. I'm referencing my bullet journal for notes on my weekly bullet journal setup. I like to sit down every Saturday or Sunday in order to get organized for it the next week. I operate on a Monday start, so I find that planning ahead the day or day before is sufficient for me. I don't really have a time of day I prefer to get this done. It just kind of happens whenever I'm in the mood. But the first thing I do have to do when I sit down to plan is I need to decide what type of spread I'm going to make for the next week. I usually rotate between two main spreads. One that is very similar to the daily log, that is more common with the bullet journal method, and one that is referred to as a rolling weekly. I usually decide between these based on how much structure I want in my life that week and if I have a lot of timed things going on. This week, I think I'm gonna go with the rolling weekly spread because I've done the daily spreads a couple of weeks in a row now and I wanna change it up. That's why I also like having two different spreads. I can kind of switch between them and get a bit of novelty without having to completely come up with a new spread layout that will probably take me a while to figure out. So that works really well for me. In order to set up the rolling weekly, it's pretty straightforward. The main focus of this type of spread and why it was invented was so that you could see an overview of the hours of each day, as well as have an overview of the types of tasks you have to do every week. I like to get started with my weekly spread by setting up my weekly task list on the first page on the left-hand side. I like to use a regular task list, but you can use a Alistair method task list if you want to. For more information on that, I have a video linked below. After I figure out what days of the month fall under the week I'm setting up, I like to write down each date, spacing it out so that weekdays take up half a page and weekends take up only a quarter of a page. I'll include exact measurements and spacing in the description in case you're curious. Just note that my journal is a B6 size, which is a bit smaller than the standard A5 journal that most people use. Then I go in and letter the days of the week at the top of the page. I choose to use a brush pen and letter the first 3 letters of the days of the week. However, this is totally optional and not necessary for the spread to be functional or work really well for you. Some great alternatives would be to just write the title with your regular handwriting, maybe throw in some cursive or some other type of writing style like block lettering or maybe even stamping. The point is you need to know what day of the week it is, and however you do that to make sure that you know that will work. If you are choosing to letter the day of the week, one tip is to pencil sketch the word first so you can check that it's centered with the date above it. This will just help everything look a bit more well laid out and intentional. And while you're lettering, make sure to go super slow, picking up your pen after every single letter. Calligraphy is not like handwriting. Speed is not important. What's more important is getting your letters consistent and having good control over what you're lettering. After I have the days of the week mapped out, I go under each section of the week and I write a time ladder from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. You can set up whatever times work best for you. I choose these because they encompass most of my workday. I also like to leave a space between my time ladder and the title of the week so that if there's a birthday or a holiday, I can write that at the top, since those types of things don't really fall under a specific time generally. I like to use the bottom half of the spread that doesn't have the time ladder for any deadlines or tasks under that day. For the weekends, I choose to use a condensed version of my time ladder, only using the letters MAE, which stand for morning, afternoon, and evening. Generally, I don't have much going on, which is why I don't need as big of a time ladder. The next thing I like to do is draw a line 2 squares up from the bottom of the page. I use this space underneath my weekly task list to record any habits that I want to track that week. These are usually things that I want to remind myself daily to do and really hold myself accountable, So having a bubble for each day of the week that I fill in really helps me with that. Under the line for each day of the week, I use that space to record my workouts I may be doing that day, because I like to see when I'm doing fitness what day, so I can plan my rests accordingly. Although you can really do whatever you want with this space. You could make it a section for one thing you're grateful for each day, maybe recording the meal that you're making for dinner or anything kind of like that. It's a great way to record small things without taking up a lot of real estate on the weekly spread. Once I finish setting up my weekly spread, I then go into migrating information into my weekly spread so I know what kind of appointments I have that week, as well as any due dates or deadlines. If you haven't heard of what migrating is in bullet journaling, it just means moving information that you have stored in either your monthly or your weekly spreads into your current week. I like to migrate my information first from my monthly section. I will look at my monthly log, look at my calendar, see what dates I have that week, and then move those into my weekly log under each day that the event falls under. I then look under my task list for my monthly log, and this is where the Alistair method really helps me, because I can see exactly what tasks I need to do that week, and then I can write those in my weekly task list. Then once I've moved everything from my monthly section, I flip to the previous week in my bullet journal and just take a look at the task list and see if there's any tasks that I haven't completed yet that I need to move to the next week or I need to get done. Once I've done this, I turn back to my to-do list, and I like to use the rest of the day to kind of periodically come back to my bullet journal and brainstorm any to-dos or tasks I need to accomplish this week. This can either be work-related tasks to my master's degree I'm doing, or it can be personal tasks or even fun stuff that I want to do that week. I don't really have an issue mixing information together. I know some people like to keep things separate, but I kind of like to have a little bit of chaos in my bullet journal. Once I've gotten my task list all fleshed out and ready to go, my weekly spread is ready for me to dive into the next week and get the stuff done, get it done. And that is pretty much it. I hope that wasn't too overly simple, but I wanted to show you guys exactly what I do. I do this every single week. It's pretty much the same process if I did a daily spread. The only difference is that I'm making my days as I go versus setting them up in advance with my weekly spread, but that's a pretty minor detail. Besides that, the task list process and migration process is completely the same, and it's pretty straightforward, I find. But I know when I first started bullet journaling, trying to remember where to migrate stuff was kind of confusing, so I hope me explaining how I do this helps anyone who's a bit confused on that or who's starting bullet journaling. One thing that I learned when making these weekly and daily spreads that I wanted to pass on to you was the importance of keeping things simple. Whenever I create a new weekly or daily spread, I always ask myself, is this something I could recreate 51 more times? There are 52 weeks in the year, generally. There might be 53 this year because it's a leap year, but that's not the point. The point is you need to be recreating these spreads quite a lot. Having something that's a big time commitment and a lot of work may or may not be realistic or feasible for you. Figuring out what's something that you really enjoy doing and is functional, but also is within a range of time that you can realistically recreate every single week is going to be that perfect middle ground where you're going to be able to commit to that and not feel overwhelmed with having to create a spread that maybe takes you a lot of time every week and you don't want to be spending that time doing it. And that brings us to the end of this weekly plan with me / sharing my weekly process. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, informative, maybe entertaining, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I have a bunch of other bullet journal videos on my channel, so make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and check those out if you want to. Besides that, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you later. Bye guys.